Hello, and welcome to the Godly Playroom. My name is Ruth Lummox, and I get to hang out in this room every week, which is great, except it's by myself, which is a little bit sad. So I'm so glad that you're joining us today, or whenever it finds you. It's been a very busy few weeks. We've done all kinds of worship and pictures and posting and recordings for Holy Week. And now we are in that bigger season, the season of Easter. Because Easter is such a big mystery, we can't keep it just in one Sunday, but it spreads out for another 6 weeks, all the way to Pentecost, which is another mystery in and of itself. But for today, let's get settled. I wonder what you need to do today, or to just be for the next half an hour or so. So you might want to pause the video if you're going to get something for your feast, or something for your work or response a little bit later. You might want to find a candle to light, whether that's a flame candle or a battery one, which is ever safer for you. And then settle yourself in your comfy chair, or with your favorite Afghan or quilt. Maybe invite some of the other people in your household to share this time with you. We have all the time that we need. And sometimes we just need to slow down and be in God's presence. For me, that happens in the mornings especially. Sometimes when I'm out walking and I notice some of the other creatures, and I've tried to be a little more attentive and listen, not only for the birds but the other animals, and to notice the changes that are happening in the earth, and to wonder about some of the lessons those creatures and the earth might offer me. Which is a good thing for us to be thinking about as we come up to Earth Day, but it is a good thing to be thinking about year-round. So let's take a few deep breaths just to be present here. And sometimes we move our hands as we breathe in and breathe out. And you can start with a smaller gesture and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And each time make that gesture a little bigger. And feel the muscles in your face and your neck and your shoulders just soften a little bit. Relax. Are you ready? Come into the presence of the Holy with me. We remember that once there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And the more they followed him, the more they wondered who he was. And one time, they just had to ask, who are you? One time when they asked him that question, he said, I'm the light. And that light continues to shine. And it grows whenever we share it. You might want to just take a moment to enjoy the light in your household. Or perhaps even to notice the extra light at the beginning of the day or the end of your day. And to pause and notice how light and shadow combine to make beautiful things together. I'm going to put this light back on the shelf so that it isn't in the way. And I might even move the camera a little bit closer so you can see the story just that much better. We have entered into this mystery that is Easter. And sometimes we mark that time of celebration with the color white. And sometimes we mark it with gold. It is a time when the disciples are coming to know Jesus in a new way. Jesus had died, which was very sad, but then God made Jesus alive again, which was amazing. And you can't pull those two things apart, which is a mystery. And so we join the disciples in this second week. They continued to meet in that upper room, even after Jesus had died. They would gather to pray. Peter was often there. Mary Magdalene, Mary, Jesus' mother, and some of the other women, and the other disciples. One time, they were gathered in the upper room, and they had closed the door and locked it for fear, when suddenly they heard a voice. "Peace be with you." They looked, and they knew it was he. They thought he might be a ghost, but he showed them his hands and the wounds in his side, and he ate a piece of fish. And then he breathed the Holy Spirit upon them and said, "As God has sent me into the world, so I send you." And then he was gone. Thomas was not with them that night. And so the next day when they met, they tried to explain what had happened, but Thomas did not believe them. How could he? Their minds were stretching to understand Jesus in this new way. And Thomas said, "Unless I can touch the wounds in his hands and see for myself, I will not believe." A few days passed, and the next week when they were gathered in the upper room for prayer and community, they heard a voice again. "Peace be with you." And he was there. And they knew it was he. And he went up to Thomas, and he said, "Touch me. Look, here are my wounds." And all Thomas could do was fall on his knees, "My Lord and my God." And Jesus looked at him for a long time. "Do you only believe because you have seen?" And then he looked around at the others. And he said, "Blessed are you who have not seen and yet still believe." Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you into the world. And then he was gone. I wonder what happened next. You might want to pause the video and answer some of these questions on your own, maybe writing out some things or drawing or just thinking about them. Or you may want to have some conversation with those folks in your household with you. I wonder what part of this story you liked best. I wonder what part of this story is the most important. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have all the story that we need. I wonder what part of this story is especially for you, or where you find yourself in this story. I wonder where Thomas was that first time when Jesus appeared to the others. I wonder what it feels like to receive the Holy Spirit. I wonder if you've ever had an experience with someone being present to you even though you knew that they were dead. There are times when I think I have heard my mother's voice in very clear tones, when I'm particularly wrestling or anxious about something. And sometimes I think I hear her laugh when our family is gathered and we get particularly silly playing games. And I remember one of our dogs, who was especially close to me, after they had died, having those experiences of feeling their head resting on my leg at times. Those are unexplainable experiences, but they touch us in a very deep place. And they remind us that death is not just an ending, but it is also a beginning. And so we, like the disciples, are struggling to make sense when someone we care about dies. So we come to know them in a different way. Just as the disciples came to know the risen Christ in a new way. Well, I'm going to move this story aside and make a little bit of room so that we can do our response together. And you might like to think about what you want to work on today. Maybe you have some unfinished work from another time. Or maybe you found some really good arts and crafts over the Easter season that you want to try out. I have a few things on my tray, but I'll wait until we're settled again. So welcome back. I have a couple of things. I couldn't make up my mind today. Some days are like that. I think, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And then I'll see what somebody else is doing. Or I see another different piece of material on the art shelf and it's like, oh, maybe I want to do that. We have lots of choices in our lives. And some of those are wonderful things. They just help us remind us about the abundance, that we have so many good things in our life. We have more than one good thing to choose from. But sometimes we think we know, and we know what we believe, and then someone else says something and it catches us off guard, or it doesn't quite land in line with what we believe. And sometimes we doubt ourselves, and sometimes it helps us re-examine some of those things that we believe. And we come to a new understanding. So doubt can be a good thing and a challenging thing, but if all it ever does is lock us away, make us too afraid to try anything new, that is not a good thing. So, I have something that you would all understand, and you can try this at home, probably over a sink the first couple of times. So I have here a baggie and it has some water in it. My hands are dry. And this is where, sometimes we don't believe things until we see them. Sometimes even when we see them, we don't quite believe them. I wonder what you think about this. Whether I can put this pencil right through the baggie and not have it leak. That's why I said you should probably try it over a sink. So let's see what we can do here. There is no water. It's dry. Do you believe it now that you've seen it? I didn't believe it when someone showed it to me. I had to see it for myself. But most of us will never see resurrection, at least not in a literal sense. And so at some point we have to figure out, what do we believe about this? I'm guessing some of you can figure out the science about why this is possible. And then you might want to try it on your own. It's really important to make sure there's no air in the bag when you seal it. And your pencil needs to be really sharp. I wonder how you decide what to believe. Sometimes we believe things because someone tells us it's true. Maybe our parents or a teacher or an older brother or sister. Sometimes we don't believe things because that older brother or sister has told us. I have 2 older brothers, and I went through a time in my life where they teased me a lot. And I got to where I didn't believe almost anything that they said. They like to, in our family we call it pulling your leg. It's a way of saying we're teasing you. And so sometimes my beliefs have felt a little bit like this clay, just kind of pushed and pulled from all different directions. And then there was a time I remember growing up where people began to ask what I thought of something, not just what my mom or my dad or my family thought, but what I thought. And I kind of made a choice along the way that if I had friends who were interested in what I thought, I liked those friends. But if they were the kind of friends that told me I had to think and be and do like they did, no, those folks were not such good friends. I imagine it was very hard for Peter and Mary and the others to figure out what to believe and how to know. Maybe it was kind of like a knot that needed unraveling. Maybe that's why Easter is such a great mystery. We need all that time to start figuring things out for ourselves. I'm going to need to wash my hands. They are covered in clay. But I don't have any feast with me today. So maybe we'll just say a prayer together and change the light. And you can enjoy a feast on your own. I wonder if you have a favorite prayer or blessing or grace that you like to do with your family. Mostly our family sings grace, and we have a large repertoire. Some of them we sing as a round where someone starts and then the next person starts, and we could sing grace for a very long time depending on how hungry we are. That was another game I used to play with my family. They get very annoyed with me because I would just keep singing and singing and singing. Sometimes we do what's called a squeeze prayer. And we hold hands and we say something we're thankful for and then squeeze the hand of the person beside us. Then they say something they're thankful for and squeeze the hand of the next person. If you're in a place where you can't hold hands or touch someone, you might do the elbow bump or simply nod your head, or sometimes in our Zoom or online groups we simply say Amen, and then we know that person is finished. So however you choose to say thanks, whether it is to sing or to speak or to offer some gratitude in silence, let's give thanks together. Holy and gracious God, thank you for this beautiful day, for all the wonder and growth that is just waiting to come forth from the earth. Help us to settle into those in-between times with more acceptance and more comfort and anticipation, so that we're ready when the new things begin to emerge, when things happen that shock us or cause us to wonder or take a step back. May we know your presence in the midst of it all. Amen. It goes very quickly when we don't have a feast to share. I think even all the chocolate eggs are gone at our house. I don't know how long they last at your house, but they don't last very long at ours. So watch what happens when I change the light. Because it's not going to be just in this one place, but it will spread out until it is in many times and many places. And it will find its way to where you are. And even when you can't see it anymore, it's still there. God bless. Be well. And look after one another until we meet again.